When you work in Word, you may find from time to time that you are required to create a large document. And we're going to consider a large document of, say, 100 pages or maybe even more. And you find that you run into some difficulty with just, scrolling through to find things. And it would just be more convenient if you had a smaller document. Well, in fact, you can create a master document and then divide all of the content that you might put into one large document into several small documents instead. So, if you are writing some sort of a book, for example, you might make each chapter its own sub-document, and then you can create a master document that either links individually to each of those sub-documents, or you can pull in all of the text to that master document for printing. It's up to you how you decide to use that master document, but it could be a really great help in just organizing the text that you are responsible for. Hi, I'm Terry, one of the Consumer Technology Specialists for Mid-Continent Public Library, and today we're going to look at something that can be extremely valuable to you, the master document. I'm going to start with a blank document, and I might decide to add in, say, a preface or some sort of an acknowledgement or maps or table of contents or whatever I decide to put before the actual content of the document. But we're going to start just right where the document would start. And we will go, first of all, with the title. And this is a genealogy. Family members have gotten together and they've gone back 400 years for this family. And now they want to share their research with this huge, extensive family that they have. So I'm just going to type the title here. Something like that. And then I may even decide to put in some sort of a really short explanation as I create this document. So it might be something like, my family and I have compiled many stories of our family that we want to share. We hope you enjoy reading about our first 400 years. And if you have anything to contribute, please know that we would like to receive your information and add it to this volume. Now, before I save it, I also want to select this title and then add heading 1 to it. Because when we create a master document, we're also looking at outline styling. And outlines and heading styles work together. I'm going to go ahead and do a file save as, and I'm going to go to my flash drive simply because that is an easier place for me to grab this Smith Family 400 Years Master Document. And then I will save it. Now also notice, and let me go back to my flash drive, that I already have 4 documents that different relatives have put together, and we decided to break up these documents along the lines of centuries, so we have a 2000s, 1900s, 1800s, and 1700s is how we divided up the chores and the genealogy research, and now we're going to put that all together into one document. To work with a master document, we are going to go to View in the tabs above the ribbon, and it's almost at the far right here. And when I click on that, I can go to the Views group on the far left. And as I look at these buttons, of course, for the most part, I work in print layout, but for a master document, we're going to spend a lot of time in the upper right with this outline button. And we want to then click on the outline button to get to our outline view. Now, as we look at the outline view, there are very few groups here on this ribbon. First of all, we have the outline tools, and they help us just kind of figure out how to organize this document and how to, in some way, format the document. So as we look at this, for example, we can see that the Smith family, 400 years, because it's heading 1, is also level 1. Now, when I click on that drop down, it says you could have up to 9 levels. And so if I have level 1 and it's on the far left and hitting that left margin, then level 2 might be indented a little bit. Level 3 would be indented a little bit more as you think about an outline. But certainly level 1 would be perhaps heading 1 style, whereas level 2 would be heading 2 style, that kind of thing. Now, when I click where I did the typing about the explanation, that is simply body text. Well, let me come down below body text and press enter, because the other part of this outline tools that we might want to look at is show level. And right now I have it defaulted to all levels, but it may not default to that. So be sure to click that drop down arrow. Instead of specifying which level you want to see, which level 1, oh, then I only see the heading. What I want to do is be sure to see all levels. That even includes the body text, so I can see the entire document right here in the outlining view. And then to the right of that, we have the master document group. And this is only a partial view of what is available here when we create a master document. And so the Show Document button is absolutely crucial and key to how well our master document comes together, because when we click that Show Document button, that's when the master document group expands and we get all sorts of different choices for making our document as good as it can possibly be. Now, again, this was the outlining view. If I close the outline view on the right, all it does is take me back to print layout view. Now let's start combining our different subdocuments into our one master document. So to do that, we'll go to View, and then over on the left, we'll click Outline. And this time, what we want to do is be sure to, first of all, instead of saying that we want to have body text, which is what I see on the left, below that initial paragraph, what I want to do is say, I want to bring in my subdocuments, at least until I think about it a little bit, as level 2. And you can see that they even indent as I add in the different levels. Well, let's go over to the right then and Show Document. And this has expanded a lot. So now I can insert a subdocument. So let's do that. And it should take me to where I just saved that master document, and we can see Smith family in the 2000s and click open. And we definitely want to add in these subdocuments in the order that they need to appear in our master document. Well, we'll click open. Now, because I have a heading style in my subdocument and I have a heading style in my master document, it's saying, do you want them all to match, or do you want to kind of keep them all separate? Well, we'll just say yes to all. And now I have inserted my first subdocument. It did kind of change it, even though we said level 2, at least in the outline view. The heading styles kind of look familiar, don't they? All right, to the left of where it says Smith Family 2000s, we have an icon that says, what is in this box, this little defining box, is all part of a subdocument, and we have copied in the text that is in that subdocument. Now let's see how that looks in our kind of regular view. So let's go over to Close Outline View. And now as I look at this, I'll go back up to the top. Here is my first paragraph, my explanation of what's going on. And then master documents, every time you add in a new subdocument, there tends to be some addition of section breaks. Sometimes they're continuous breaks, sometimes they're next page breaks, but you will probably find as you go through that you will be deleting some of those section breaks along the way. But for now, we'll keep them. So we'll scroll down, and here is Smith Family 2000s, and it just looks like a regular document, doesn't it? Well, let's go back to View, and then to Outline on the left. And again, we need to Show Document to see what all is available. And let's insert another subdocument. So we'll click Insert. And this time we'll go with number 2, the Smith Family in the 1900s. And we'll click Open. And again, we kind of have that adjustment we need to make with the heading styles. We'll say yes to all. And as I scroll back up through this text, at the top of that subdocument, I again have that little icon that shows that, yes, this is a subdocument. Let's close the outline view, and as I go to Control Home and we look at our print layout view, we have that initial paragraph that we typed. We can come down, and here's the first inserted document, and yes, there's a section break next page that's been added, and then we will come down to the second subdocument that we have added. If you decide that you want to make, say, formatting changes to this document, you want to change it in the outlining view, not in the print layout view. So let's go to View and go to Outline, and we'll go to our first subdocument here. And with our first subdocument, let's just select a whole paragraph. And let's make some formatting changes. So I'll go to Home, and I'll make the text bold, change the font size, maybe even change the font color. We also need to save that master document. And one way that I can find a subdocument is kind of interesting. We'll go up to View, and again, the outline view. And if you get caught and you've already in the outline view, then what you can do is be sure to go to the left to Outlining, that first tab above the ribbon, and here it says, but you had that open all the time. Well, what we want to do is collapse the subdocuments. When I collapse the subdocuments, it gives me the path to where those subdocuments can be found. So I don't have to navigate to find these documents. I simply rest my mouse over the one that I want to find and Control-click. And it takes me right to that first subdocument that I've clicked on. And look at that. I already have the changed formatting for this particular subdocument. You can tell it's a subdocument. I can even click and drag it down. And it is its own independent, unique document that I've made changes to. It's just that they happen to sync with that master document. And then I'll close out of the Smith Family. I made a change with that first document from the outline view. But what happens if I want to make a change to a subdocument first? Will it sync with the master document? Well, let's come down to the second document here. And this is Smith Family in the 1900s. And we'll just do another formatting change. I'll select a paragraph. Let's change the font. Something rather stark, so I think we need to make it larger. Maybe put a highlighter on it. And again, I would like to save this so that I can be sure that my changes are saved. And then I can also click and drag down to show that this is an independent document that I've made changes to. I'll close it. And the only way that I can see those changes is to come back up to the ribbon, go to the master document group, and instead of collapsing those documents, I want to expand them. So here's my Smith Family 2000s that I made the change right here. And then here is the Smith Family 1900s where I made the change in the sub document. Now, one other thing that I do want to do is look at collapsed subdocuments. So I'm back to these path names, the URLs of where this exists. And I want to close the outline view to see what happens with my main document that most people are going to look at. Oh, look at that. It actually reflects whatever is in the outline view. So here I have my subdocument 1, my subdocument 2, and it tells me where they are. And I could even control-click from this print layout view and get to those subdocuments. Well, let's go back to view and then to outline. And let's expand our subdocuments because I would like to, again, go to that Show Document button to expand out our possibilities here as we look at the rest of this master document group. Now let's scroll down in our outline view because we have made some great changes here. But let's say that we want to look at some of the other possibilities in that master document group. So I'm just going to press enter. Then I'm going to show document. One of the things that I can do is create a subdocument. So I can click on create, and it's going to let me create a subdocument just right here in the outline view. And that's important, the outline view, because I have to be a little careful. First of all, where my insertion point is would simply just add more text to the existing subdocument. I want to look for this little icon and even the box that goes around that icon, and then click to the right of the icon. So then I can just type as normal, but notice that this is going to be in level 2 or heading 2 text. So this is a created document, subdocument. It will explain why we divided the document into 100-year spans. And then I definitely want to save that, so I'll click on Save. Now, what does that do? Well, if I close the outline view, I can see that then as its own little section here, and there is a section break before it and after it. When I go to View and go to Outline, then this is perfect. Let's insert one more subdocument. So we'll go to Show Document again, and go to Insert. This time we'll insert the third document. Click OK. And we know we might have a conflict. We'll just say yes. And so now we have the Smith family of the 1800s. Now what is interesting here is if I collapse the subdocuments, and it says, oh, do I want to save the changes? Yes. Notice that I have the Smith family, 400 years. I have Smith family, 2000s, and I can click on that with Control-Click, and it worked beautifully. I'll save it. I can go to Smith family 1900s. That's gorgeous. I can save that. Then I have Smith family. Whoops, what happened to my created section? Let's click on Smith family again. Now I can come down, and it added inside of my second subdocument. So I'm going to simply remove that and save, first of all, my second document and close out. And then I'm going to try to insert another created subdocument. So we're going to go back to Show Documents, and I can't really insert it until I expand the subdocuments. So let's go down between that second and third subdocument here, and let's click. Let's make sure that we have level 2, and we want to be sure to create, and we want to be sure that we're not in this document, but we want to click to the right of that icon. Let's see if it'll work this time. This is a sub document. And we can then be sure to save our subdocument as well, our master document. If we then collapse the subdocuments, now look at this. This is a subdocument. When I control click, it even shows that that is its own separate document, and the name of the document is this is a subdocument. So sometimes you need to play with this a little bit to make your created subdocuments work correctly. Now let's expand our subdocuments one more time, because we could also look at unlinking those subdocuments or locking the really master document. So first of all, let's look at unlinking a subdocument. And what that does is it removes the link between the subdocument and the master document. So let's go down to the last subdocument that we added in right here. Let's just select the whole thing by clicking on that plus sign. We want to remove that link, and when we remove the link, it actually puts the text of that document, or a copy of the text of that document, into our master document, but it will give us no way to get back to the subdocument. Now, that could cause issues if you want to make more changes and sync between the subdocument and the master document. But if you are fairly finished with the master document, it may not make any difference. Well, let's unlink. And about the only way that we're going to be able to see this very well is to collapse the subdocuments. And now look at that. There is no link. There's no path to this last one because the text has just been copied in, and that URL no longer exists according to the master document. Well, let's expand our subdocuments again, because there's one other thing that we can do, and that is to lock the document. And when I hover over lock document, it says, well, we can lock the subdocument links so that future changes aren't propagated to the subdocuments. Let's use our first subdocument as an example of what can happen when we decide to turn on lock document. And all I need to do is click on this first subdocument and then say, oh, I want to lock it so that I can't make changes to the master that will at all affect the subdocument. So I lock the document, and then notice that on the left and underneath the icon, I now have a little lock, a little padlock. And if I were to go to Home, I can't even make any changes, formatting changes, because everything is grayed out. So I click, I might try to make a highlight. Let's see if that'll work. No, it doesn't really even work. And so I can keep from making any more changes between my subdocument and my master document by locking everything. Let me go back to outlining here in the upper left with lock the document so that there are no more changes that are possible. And then let's close our outline view so that once again we can go to Control Home and look at this master document. As a matter of fact, let's go to File and Print. And now we can see our initial paragraph that we typed in. Here's our Smith Family 2000s with the text that we changed. And then as we go on, we can look to see Smith Family, some more text that we changed. Here is our little created subdocument that we added in, and then here's our Smith family, yet another 100 years of that family history. But as I look at this also, then I can only get to some of those subdocuments. However, if I come to my flash drive and look at what's there, all of these documents are still here. I can see the changes that are made, and I can have a really good idea then of how they relate. It's just that we need to be careful that if we make a master document, that we make sure that the subdocument and the master document match all the time. To learn even more, be sure to go to mymcpl.org/online learning for such great resources as Universal Class, LinkedIn Learning, Learning Express Library, and Udemy Business. We also premiere new videos every Wednesday and Friday at 1 o'clock. If you miss a video premiere, you'll still be able to find it later when it's convenient for you. You can find us on Facebook at MCPL 360, and you can find us on YouTube by going to our MCPL MO channel.